The transport ship landed on Mars with a heavy thud. G1 stepped out into the red dust, her small frame barely visible among the other soldiers. She carried a single bag and walked with quiet steps toward the training facility inside the barracks. Dozens of soldiers were already gathered. They were big, loud, and confident. G1 found an empty bunk in the corner and started unpacking her things. "Hey, look at this one," a voice called out. It was Taemin, a tall soldier with scars on his face. He pointed at G1 and laughed. "Did they send us a kid by mistake?" His friend Hyenwoo joined in. "Maybe she's lost. The supply department is on the other side of the base." The other soldiers laughed. G1 said nothing. She folded her clothes and placed them neatly in her locker. "I'm talking to you," Taemin said, walking closer. "What's a little girl doing in an assault division?" G1 finally looked at him. Her eyes were dark and empty. "I was assigned here. By who? Your daddy?" Hyenwoo added. More laughter filled the room. A woman with short hair approached G1. Her name was Minna, and she seemed friendlier than the others. "Don't mind them," Minna whispered. "They do this to everyone new." G1 nodded but didn't smile. She finished unpacking and sat on her bunk, staring at the wall. The next morning, Commander Daeho gathered all soldiers in the training hall. He was an older man with gray hair and a strong voice. "We have new assignments today," he announced. "You will be divided into squads. Each squad will train together and fight together." He read names from a tablet. When he reached G1's name, he paused. "Private G1, you are assigned to Squad 7 under Lieutenant Jae-sung." Jae-sung was a serious man in his 30s. He looked at G1 with doubt in his eyes but said nothing. The training began immediately. They ran obstacle courses, practiced shooting, and did combat drills. G1 performed each task correctly, but nothing special. She wasn't the fastest runner or the best shot. She was just average. This made Taemin even more confident in his mockery. "See? I told you," he said during lunch. "She doesn't belong here." Probably got promoted because someone felt sorry for her. G1 ate her food in silence. She sat alone at the end of the table. Min tried to sit with her several times, but G1's responses were always short. "Yes, no, maybe, thank you." Nothing more. Days passed like this. The squad trained hard for their first real mission. G1 remained quiet and unremarkable. Even Lieutenant Jae-sung seemed to forget about her most of the time. 2 weeks later, their transport ship was returning from a supply run to the outer colonies. The journey was supposed to be routine and boring. Most soldiers were playing cards or sleeping. G1 sat alone near a window, staring at the stars. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every wall. "All soldiers to stations!" The captain's voice shouted through the speakers. "We've received a distress signal from mining colony Kepler 47. They're under attack." The soldiers scrambled to their feet. Taemin grabbed his rifle with shaking hands. Hyenwoo looked pale. "Who's attacking them?" someone asked. The captain's voice returned, colder this time. "Vrin forces. Multiple ships detected. Prepare for combat." The word Vrin made everyone freeze. The Vrin were alien warriors, brutal and violent. Humanity had been fighting them for 3 years, and the war was not going well. The Vrin were stronger, faster, and seemed to feel no fear. Lieutenant Jae-sung tried to organize the squad, but his voice was unsteady. "Everyone, check your weapons. Stay in formation. We'll support the colony defense until reinforcements arrive." The transport ship moved faster now, rushing toward the colony. Through the windows, soldiers could see the mining station in the distance. Fires burned across its surface. Small explosions dotted the darkness around the station. Alien ships circled like sharks. They were dark and covered in strange symbols. The Vrin vessels. "There are so many," Minna whispered. Jae-sung's hands trembled as he held his rifle. He had fought the Vrin once before, and half his squad had died. The memories haunted him. The transport ship docked with the mining station. The airlock hissed open. "Move out!" Jae-sung ordered, but his voice cracked. The soldiers rushed into the station's corridors. The smell of smoke and blood filled the air. Bullet holes covered the walls. Bodies of miners lay scattered on the floor. From ahead, they heard screams and the sound of weapons firing. The Vryn are in the main hall. Someone shouted over the radio. Jae-sung stopped. His breathing became heavy. He stared down the corridor, unable to move forward. "Lieutenant?" Taemin asked. "What do we do?" Before Jae-sung could answer, a different voice spoke. It was quiet, but somehow cut through all the noise. "Permission to assess the situation, sir." Everyone turned. It was Gwon, but something was different about her. Her face was no longer passive. Her eyes were sharp and calculating, like a predator studying its prey. "What?" Jae-sung stammered. "Permission to assess the situation," Gwon repeated, her voice steady as stone. "We don't have time for that," Jae-sung said. "We need to—" An explosion rocked the corridor. The wall to their right exploded inward. Through the smoke and fire, massive shapes emerged. The Vryn had found them. They were huge creatures, nearly 8 feet tall, with thick armor covering their bodies. Their faces were like insects, with multiple eyes and sharp mandibles. Each one carried weapons that looked like a mix of blades and guns. "Contact!" Hyen-woo screamed. The soldiers opened fire, but their panic made them inaccurate. Bullets pinged off Vryn armor. The aliens charged forward with terrifying speed. Tae-min dove behind a crate, his earlier bravado completely gone. "There are too many. We need to retreat." One Vryn warrior broke through their line. It raised its blade gun to kill a soldier named Dong-woo. Then, Ji-won moved. She crossed the distance in 3 quick steps. Her rifle came up smooth and perfect. She fired a single shot that hit the Vryn exactly where its armor plates connected. The alien's head snapped back and it fell. Before anyone could process what happened, Ji-won fired twice more. 2 more Vryn dropped, each shot hitting the same weak point with impossible precision. "Form a line." Ji-won's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. It was no longer the quiet voice of a timid girl. This was the voice of someone who had given orders before. Someone who expected to be obeyed. And somehow the soldiers obeyed. "Taemin, right flank, 45-degree angle." "Hyen-woo, suppressing fire on my mark." "Minna, watch the left corridor." The soldiers moved without thinking, taking positions exactly as she commanded. Lieutenant Jae-sung stood frozen, watching this girl he thought was weak take control of his entire squad. One moved between positions, firing with perfect accuracy. Every shot hit. Every movement had purpose. 3 more coming from the left. Minna shouted. "I see them," Ji-won said calmly. "Let them get closer." The Vryn charged into the corridor. At the last second, Ji-won gave a hand signal. 3 soldiers fired at once. All 3 aliens fell. Within 2 minutes, the immediate threat was eliminated. 12 Vryn warriors lay dead in the corridor. Squad 7 had not lost a single soldier. Everyone stared at. She calmly reloaded her weapon as if nothing unusual had happened. "Lieutenant Jae-sung," she said quietly, "I suggest we move to a defensive position. More will come." Jae-sung could only nod. Squad 7 moved through the mining station like ghosts. Ki-won led the way, her rifle always ready. Behind her, the other soldiers followed in perfect formation. Even Lieutenant Jae-sung had stopped trying to give orders. They reached the main hall where miners were hiding. About 30 civilians huddled behind barricades, their faces full of fear. "Help us!" One miner shouted. "They're everywhere. They killed everyone in the lower levels." Ji-won scanned the room quickly. She noticed the positions of doors, the cover points, the sight lines. Her mind worked like a computer, calculating every possibility. "How many Vryn did you see?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe 50? Maybe more." They just kept coming. 50 Vryn warriors. Squad 7 had only 20 soldiers. The math was terrible. Tae-min looked at Ji-won with wide eyes. "We can't fight that many. We should call for evacuation." "No time," Ji-won said. "The Vryn will breach this position in 8 minutes. Evacuation takes 15. How do you know that?" Hyen-woo asked. One didn't answer. She was already moving to a control panel on the wall. Her fingers flew across the buttons. "This mining station has industrial equipment," she said. "Cutting lasers, pressure systems, cargo lifts. We can use them. Use them for what?" Jae-sung asked. "To kill Vryn." Ji-won pulled up a map of the station on the screen. She marked several locations with quick taps. "The Vryn always attack in 3 waves," she explained, her voice cold and factual. "First wave scouts the area. Second wave engages the enemy. Third wave finishes the job. We already survived the first wave. The second wave is coming now. How do you know their tactics?" Min asked. Ji-won ignored the question. "Taemin, take 5 soldiers to this corridor. When I trigger the pressure door, they'll be forced through your position. Wait until they're all inside, then seal both ends. They'll be trapped. And then what?" "Then you open the airlock and flush them into space." Taemin swallowed hard but nodded. "Hyun-woo, you and 4 others will position here with the cutting lasers. I'm redirecting them to fire across this junction. When the Vryn come through, activate them." "That's insane," Hyun-woo said. "Those lasers are for cutting metal, not fighting. They'll cut through Vryn armor just fine," one said with certainty. She gave orders to everyone, positioning them like pieces on a chessboard. Even the miners were given tasks, mostly operating the station's systems. Jae-sung watched in amazement. This was not the work of a regular soldier. This was the work of someone who had fought many battles before. "One," he said quietly. "Who are you really?" She looked at him with those empty eyes. "Someone who has fought them before, sir." The alarms changed tone. The Vryn were coming. "Everyone to positions," Hyun ordered. "Stay calm. Follow the plan. We will survive this." The soldiers scattered to their assigned locations. Ji-won remained in the main hall with Minna and 3 others. Through the security cameras, they watched the Vryn approach. Just as Ji-won predicted, they moved in a coordinated wave. About 30 warriors, all heavily armed. "They're splitting up," Minna observed. "Some are going left, some right." "Exactly as expected," Hyun said. She pressed a button on the control panel. "Taemin, they're coming to you. 12 contacts. I see them." Taemin's voice came through the radio. He sounded terrified but ready. The Vryn entered the corridor where Taemin was hiding. They moved with confidence, expecting easy prey. "Wait," Ji-won said calmly into the radio. Wait, now." Taemin's team opened fire. The Vryn scattered, looking for cover. They ran deeper into the corridor, exactly as Ji-won predicted. "Seal it," Ji-won commanded. Heavy pressure doors slammed shut at both ends of the corridor. The Vryn were trapped. They began pounding on the doors with their weapons, but the metal was too thick. "Open the airlock," Ji-won said. Tae-min hesitated. He had never killed in such a way before. It seemed too easy, too brutal. "Do it now." Go-won's voice was sharp. He pressed the button. The outer wall of the corridor opened to space. The Vryn were sucked out into the void, their screams silent in the vacuum. 12 enemies eliminated. No human casualties. "Good work," Ji-won said without emotion. "Hyun-woo, you're next. 18 contacts approaching your position." "Ready," Hyun-woo replied. He gripped the laser controls with sweaty hands. The Vryn entered the junction. They were more cautious now, moving in tight formation with shields raised. "They learn fast," Kwon observed. "Activate lasers on my mark." 3, 2, 1, mark. The industrial cutting lasers fired. Massive beams of concentrated energy sliced through the junction. The Vryn tried to dodge, but the beams were too wide and too fast. Their armor melted like butter. Within seconds, all 18 were cut down. "Impossible," someone whispered. Ji-won checked the security cameras again. "Third wave incoming." This is where it gets difficult. The final group of Vryn didn't follow the usual pattern. They moved more carefully, checking corners and using better tactics. "They know we're ready for them," Jae-sung said. "Yes," Hyun agreed. "Which means we need to face them directly." She picked up her rifle and checked the ammunition. Stay here and protect the miners. I'll draw them out. That's suicide. Minna protested. No, that's war. Ji-won walked toward the main entrance. Wait. Jae-sung called, but she was already gone. The remaining Vrin warriors entered the main hall. There were 20 of them, led by a massive creature that was even bigger than the others. Its armor was decorated with strange symbols, marking it as a war leader. G-1 stood in the center of the hall, alone. Her rifle pointed at the ground. The war leader saw her and stopped. Its multiple eyes focused on her small frame. Then something strange happened. The war leader made a sound. It was like a mix between a hiss and a scream. The other Vrin began backing away. The war leader spoke. Its voice was rough and broken, but the words were clear human language. Ghost. Ji-won's face remained emotionless. You learned to speak. How nice. Deathbringer, the war leader continued. The one who walks through walls? The phantom. The other Vrin were clearly agitated now. They made clicking sounds and shifted nervously. Impossible, the war leader said. You died. Vrin High Command said you died. I got better, Ji-won replied coldly. She raised her rifle. The movement was smooth and practiced. Before the war leader could react, she fired a single shot that hit its weak spot beneath the throat armor. The massive creature fell. Retreat! One of the Vrin shouted in its own language, and they ran. 20 hardened alien warriors who moments ago had been confident of victory turned and fled from one small human girl. Squad 7 emerged from their positions, stunned. They had just watched an entire Vrin assault force retreat because of one person. What just happened? Taemin asked. Hyun-woo stared at Ji-won with a mix of fear and respect. Who is she? Lieutenant Jae-sung approached Ji-won slowly. Private Ji-won, I think we need to talk. Ji-won lowered her rifle. For a moment, her mask slipped. She looked tired, so very tired. Not now, sir? We need to make sure the civilians are safe. The Vrin might regroup. They won't, Jae-sung said with certainty. They're too afraid. They're afraid of you. Mana had been searching the station's database on her tablet. Her face went pale as she read something on the screen. One, she said slowly. I looked up your service record. It says you have 47 confirmed solo kills against Vrin forces. 49 now, Ji-won corrected quietly, glancing at the dead war leader. That's more than our entire company combined, Minna continued. But there's more. There are whole sections of your record that are classified. Black operations level classified. The other soldiers gathered around, listening. You were in special operations, Jae-sung realized. You weren't just a soldier. You were something else. One said nothing. She walked away toward the wounded miners who needed medical attention. Tae-min looked at Hyun-woo. We mocked her. We called her weak. We're idiots, Hyun-woo agreed later. When the rescue ships finally arrived, Squad 7 sat together in the medical bay. They were tired but alive. Tae-min approached Ji-won, who was sitting alone as usual. He stood there awkwardly, not knowing what to say. I'm sorry, he finally managed. For everything I said? I was wrong. One looked up at him. You didn't know. Still, I should have shown respect. Respect is earned in battle, not given freely, Ji-won said. You fought well today. That's what matters. Taemin nodded and walked away. Feeling somehow both ashamed and honored. Min sat down next to Ji-won without asking permission this time. The Vrin called you Ghost Commander, she said. Is that really what they call you? Ji-won was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. They call me many names, Ghost, Phantom, Deathbringer, the commander who cannot die. She looked at her hands. I don't like any of them. Then what should we call you? Ji-won is fine. Minna smiled slightly. Okay, Ji-won. Thank you for saving us. For the first time since arriving at the base, Ji-won smiled back. It was small and sad, but it was real. You're welcome. The command ship, Indomitable, was massive. It floated in space like a small city made of metal and weapons. Squad 7 had been transferred there for debriefing after the battle at the mining colony. 1 stood alone in a conference room. Through the window she could see stars and distant planets. She wondered which one used to be her home. The door opened. Commander Deho entered, followed by 3 hologram projections of high-ranking officers. One of them was Admiral Hay1, a woman with steel-gray hair and hard eyes. Private G1, Admiral Hay1's hologram spoke. Or should I say Commander G1? G1 stood at attention. I hold no such rank currently, Admiral, but you did once. The Admiral gestured to the other officers. These men want to know why one of our most valuable special operations commanders is hiding as a regular soldier. I requested reassignment, ma'am. You approved it. I approved it as a favor, Hay1 said sharply. I thought a few months of normal duty might help you recover. Instead, you've exposed your identity and caused an incident. I saved lives, Admiral. Yes, you did. But now the Vrin know you're back in play. That changes everything. One of the other officers, General Baksu, leaned forward in his hologram. I've read your classified file, Commander. Frankly, I don't believe half of it. No single person could have accomplished what you claim to have done. I never claimed anything, sir. The mission reports speak for themselves. Then let's hear it from you, Admiral Hay1 said. Tell them who you really are. Yuan closed her eyes. The memories came flooding back, whether she wanted them or not. 3 years ago, she began slowly, I was a civilian living on New Seoul Colony. I was 20 years old and planning to marry my fiancé, Seung-ho. He was a teacher. We were happy. Her voice remained flat, but her hands clenched into fists. The Vrin came without warning. Their ships appeared in orbit and began bombardment. We had no military presence, no defenses. It was a farming colony, peaceful and unimportant. Or so we thought. Commander Deho listened intently. He had heard parts of this story, but never the full truth. The first wave killed thousands. My family's house took a direct hit. My parents, my younger brother, they died instantly. Suo and I were in the city center. We tried to run to the evacuation ships. One's voice cracked slightly. She cleared her throat and continued. A Vrin warrior found us in an alley. It was playing with us. They do that sometimes, hunting humans for sport. Seung-ho pushed. Because that's exactly what I would do. Another explosion rocked the Indomitable. The ship shook violently. Sir, we've lost the starboard shield generators. A technician reported. Hull breach on deck 7. Commander Deho's ship took a direct hit. Communications went dead. The Indomitable was now the fleet's command vessel, but General Baksu was struggling to coordinate the defense. Ships were dying. Hundreds of sailors with each explosion. G1 made a decision. She walked to the communications console and entered an authorization code. The officer at the station looked confused. Ma'am, that's an Admiral-level access code. I know, one said. She pulled up her classified service record on the screen. Admiral Hay1 never revoked my command authority. As ranking Special Operations Commander, I'm taking tactical control of this battle. You can't do that. General Baksu protested. G1 looked at him with cold eyes. I can, and I am. You're a good general, sir, but you don't know how to fight the Vrin. I do. Admiral Hay1's face appeared on a screen. She had been monitoring the battle from fleet headquarters. Do it, she said simply. 1, you have command. Save them. Yuan turned to the communications officer. Open a channel to all ships. Priority Alpha. The officer hesitated, then obeyed. G1's voice went out to every captain in the fleet. This is Commander G1. Some of you know me. Some of you have heard stories. The Vring call me Ghost Commander, and right now, they think they've beaten us. Her voice was steady and confident. Across the fleet, captains who had been panicking stopped to listen. They're using tactics I taught humanity. War Master Krul studied me, learned from me. But he made one mistake. He assumed I wouldn't change. Yuan began issuing orders rapidly. Ship movements, firing solutions, squadron deployments. Her command seemed random at first, even dangerous. Captain Park, take your ship directly into that cluster of Vryn cruisers. That's suicide, Captain Park replied. Trust me, you'll survive. Move now. In Squad 7's barracks, the soldiers listened to one's voice over the speakers. Taemin was sitting in a fighter cockpit preparing to launch. Is she insane? Han-woo asked. No, Lieutenant Jae-sung replied. She knows exactly what she's doing. Follow her orders. Taemin powered up his fighter. Let's hope you're right. Back in the command center, Ji-won orchestrated the battle like a deadly symphony. She was placing ships in positions that seemed vulnerable, creating gaps in the human formation. General Boksu watched in horror. You're exposing our flanks. The Vryn will tear through those positions. That's what Krula thinks too, Ji-won said calmly. The Vryn fleet adjusted their formation, moving to exploit the apparent weaknesses. They pressed harder, committing more ships to the attack. Now they're overextended, Ji-won observed. Spring the trap. She issued new orders. The human ships that seemed vulnerable suddenly coordinated in perfect synchronization. They had been bait, drawing the Vryn into a killing zone. Crossfire erupted from multiple directions. Vryn ships found themselves surrounded, their own aggressive tactics turned against them. All fighter squadrons, launch now! Ji-won commanded. Tae-min and hundreds of other pilots rocketed out of their carriers. They swarmed the Vryn formation, targeting weak points that Ji-won had identified. Target the ship with red markings, Ji-won's voice came through Taemin's headset. That's their command vessel. Hit the engines. Taemin dove through enemy fire, his fighter weaving between explosions. He lined up his shot and fired missiles at the marked target. Direct hit. The Vryn command ship's engines exploded. Across the battlefield, the Vryn fleet began losing coordination. Ji-won had cut off their communications by destroying key relay ships. They're falling apart, an officer reported with surprise. Not yet, Ji-won said. Krulith is still out there. He'll try one more move. As if responding to her prediction, the Vryn flagship suddenly changed course. It was heading directly for Terra Nova, ignoring the space battle entirely. He's going to bombard the planet, Ji-won realized. If he can't win the battle, he'll kill the civilians. We can't stop him in time, someone shouted. He's too close. I can stop him, Ji-won said quietly. She turned to Lieutenant Jae-sung. I need Squad 7. Prepare for boarding action. Boarding? Jae-sung repeated. That ship is massive, which is why they won't expect it. 20 minutes later, a small assault shuttle approached the Vryn flagship. Inside were Gu-1 and Squad 7, all wearing space combat armor. This is crazy, Taemin muttered. We're going to board an enemy capital ship? We've done crazier things, Minna replied, though her voice shook slightly. G-1 checked her weapons. Krulith wants to face me. I'm giving him what he wants. The rest of you secure the hangar and hold position. You're going alone? Han-woo asked. This is personal. Krulith killed 6 members of my old team. I owe them this. The shuttle crashed through the Vryn hangar bay shields. They landed hard, immediately under fire from Vryn warriors inside the hangar. Squad 7 fought with everything they had. The training and confidence Ji-won had given them showed in every movement. They worked together perfectly, covering each other, taking down enemies with precision. Hangar secure, Jae-sung reported. Hold here, Ji-won ordered. I'm going to the bridge. She ran through the corridors of the alien ship, shooting any Vryn that appeared. Her movements were fluid and practiced. This wasn't her first time boarding an enemy vessel. The bridge doors loomed ahead. Ji-won kicked them open. Inside stood Krulith, the massive war master. He was even bigger than normal Vryn, his armor decorated with the bones of his enemies. Ghost Commander, he spoke in broken human language. Finally, we meet in person. You speak better now, Ji-won noted, raising her rifle. I learned. Studied you. Watched recordings of your battles. You are impressive for a human. And you're intelligent for a Vryn, but you still made a mistake. What mistake? You thought you could become me by copying my tactics. But tactics aren't what make me dangerous. Then what? Ji-won's eyes turned cold. I remember every person I've lost. Every soldier who died under my command. Every civilian I failed to save. That pain, that guilt, that rage. That's what makes me dangerous. She fired. The battle was brutal and fast. Krulith was strong and armored, but Ji-won was precise and relentless. She dodged his strikes and targeted his weak points, just as she had taught so many others to do. When it ended, Krulith lay dying on the floor of his bridge. You are exactly ... What we thought? He gasped. A monster. Yes, Ji-won agreed quietly. War made me a monster. But at least I'm humanity's monster. She pressed a button on her wrist device. Vijisung, plant the charges. We're leaving. Squad 7 evacuated the flagship. 10 seconds later, it exploded from the inside, the remaining Vryn fleet. Seeing their commander dead and their formation broken, retreated. The Battle of Terra Nova was over. Humanity had won, but the cost was severe. 38 ships destroyed? Over 3,000 sailors dead. Ji-won stood in the ruined command center, surrounded by celebrating officers. But she felt no joy. Through the window, she could see the floating debris. Each piece was part of a ship. Each ship had been full of people. Min-Dasha found her there hours later. Everyone's calling you a hero, Minna said softly. One was crying, silent tears running down her face. Heroes don't feel like this, she whispered. 3 weeks after the Battle of Terra Nova, the galaxy had changed. News of the victory spread through every human colony. The Ghost Commander was no longer a legend whispered among special forces. She was famous. One hated every moment of it. Her face appeared on screens everywhere. News channels showed footage of the battle, analyzing her tactics. People called her humanity's sword and the savior of Terra Nova. She just wanted to disappear. The military promoted her to fleet admiral. At 22 years old, she became one of the youngest admirals in history. High Command wanted her to lead the entire war effort against the Vryn. You should be proud, Commander Daeho told her. You've earned this. They were walking through a military hospital, visiting wounded soldiers from the battle. Ji-won stopped at each bed, speaking quietly to the injured. I don't feel proud, she replied. I feel tired. A young soldier named Yoonji called out when she saw Ji-won. The girl was 19, missing her left arm from a Vryn weapon strike. Commander! Yoonji's face lit up despite her injuries. I can't believe you're here. You're my hero. Ji-won forced a smile. How are you feeling, Private? Better now. The doctors say I'll be back on duty in 3 months with a prosthetic arm. I can't wait. I want to fight like you do. The enthusiasm in the girl's voice made Ji-won's heart hurt. She saw herself 3 years ago in this young soldier's eyes. The same anger, the same desire for revenge, the same willingness to sacrifice everything. Private Yoonji, one said carefully. Why do you want to fight? To protect humanity. To kill the Vryn. To be like you. Don't be like me. The smile faded from Yoonji's face. What? I've killed hundreds of enemies. I've won battles. But I've also lost friends, lost pieces of myself. Every victory costs something. Don't rush to pay that price. One left before the girl could respond. Commander Daeho followed her into the hallway. You can't save everyone, he said gently. I know, but maybe I can stop some of them from becoming what I became. That evening, there was a memorial ceremony for the 3,000 sailors who died at Terra Nova. Ji-won stood among the military leaders. Listening to speeches about honor and sacrifice, Admiral Haewon approached her afterward. We need to talk, the admiral said. They walked to a private office. Inside, hologram screens showed maps of the war. Red markers indicated Vryn territory. It covered a third of known space. We're losing the war, Haewon said bluntly. Terra Nova was a victory, but the Vryn are winning on other fronts. We need you to lead the fleet. I'm not ready for that. You'll never feel ready. No one ever does. But you're the best chance humanity has. Ji-won stared at the maps. So much red, so much territory lost, so many people already dead. What happens to the person I was before the war? She asked quietly. That girl who wanted to be a teacher, who loved Sung-ho, who laughed with her family. What happens to her? Admiral Haewon was silent for a long moment. She doesn't come back. War takes that from us. But maybe the person you become can honor her memory by protecting others. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Then take time to decide. But decide quickly. The Vrin are preparing another major offensive. Ji-won left the office feeling lost. She wandered through the ship until she found herself in the training gym. Lieutenant Jae-sung was there, practicing combat forms alone. Commander? He greeted her, slightly out of breath. Can't sleep either? Something like that. Jae-sung sat down on a bench, wiping sweat from his face. I heard they want you to lead the whole fleet. They do. Will you accept? I don't know. Jae-sung nodded thoughtfully. Can I tell you something? Before I became a lieutenant, I was a pilot. A good one. But in my first real battle, I made a mistake. Panicked and broke formation. 3 of my squad mates died because of it. One looked at him with surprise. She had never heard this story. I wanted to quit, Jung continued. Couldn't live with the guilt. But my commander told me something I've never forgotten. He said, command isn't about being the strongest or smartest. It's about being willing to carry the weight so others don't have to. That weight is crushing me, Juwon admitted. I know. But you're still standing. That's more than most could manage. Later that night, Guwon found Min in the common room. Her friend was writing letters to families of fallen soldiers. Hey, Minna said, putting down her pen. You look terrible, thanks. I mean it. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. Having nightmares isn't the same as sleeping. Minna stood up and faced her. Talk to me. Really talk. What's going on in that head of yours? Yuwon sat down heavily. They want me to be something I'm not. A hero, a leader, a symbol, but I'm just a person who's killed a lot and lost more. How can I lead when I'm barely holding myself together? Because you don't have to be perfect, Minna said. You just have to be there. Do you know what we saw at that mining colony? Not a perfect soldier. We saw someone who was scared and did it anyway. Someone who protected us even though she didn't have to. That's a real hero. Heroes don't cry in hospital hallways. Yes, they do. They just do it where others can't see. Minna grabbed Ji-won's hand. You're not alone anymore. You have Squad 7, you have me. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. The next morning, Admiral Haewon called an emergency meeting. All senior officers gathered in the command center. Intelligence has confirmed it, the Admiral announced. The Vrin are massing their entire remaining fleet. Over 500 ships. They're preparing a final assault on Earth itself. Shocked silence filled the room. This is it, General Baksu said. If we lose Earth, we lose everything. Humanity's homeworld, our central command, billions of civilians. How long do we have? Someone asked. 2 weeks. Maybe less. All eyes turned to Ji-won. She stood at the back of the room, her face unreadable. Commander Ji-won, Admiral Haewon addressed her formally. Humanity needs the Ghost Commander one more time. Will you accept command of the defense of Earth? The room waited for her answer. The weight of billions of lives hung in the balance. G-1 thought about Sung-ho, her family, her fallen squad mates from Wraith Company. She thought about young Yoon-ji in the hospital, eager to fight. She thought about Squad 7, who had become her new family. I'll accept, she said finally. But not as Fleet Admiral. I want a different position. What position? Special Operations Commander? I'll lead the defense when it's needed. I'll train new commanders in anti-Vrin tactics. But between battles, I return to Squad 7 as a regular soldier. That's unconventional, General Baksu said. I don't want to become a symbol. I don't want to lose touch with what I'm fighting for. If I'm going to lead, I need to stay grounded. Admiral Haewon considered this. You want to be a soldier who sometimes commands rather than a commander who used to be a soldier. Yes. Agreed. You'll have whatever authority you need during operations, but you keep your connection to regular troops. One nodded. Then I have one more condition. I want to train a new generation of tactical officers. Teach them how to fight the Vryn without becoming like me. Someone has to break the cycle. Done? Over the next week, G1 assembled a task force. She combined elite special forces with regular soldiers. Squad 7 was at its core, but she added volunteers from across the fleet. Tae-Min and Hyunwoo were now her most trusted pilots. Min-Ah became her communications officer. Lieutenant Jae-Sung served as her second-in-command. She held a briefing for all assembled forces. Thousands of soldiers gathered in the hangar bay. G-1 stood on a platform, looking out at the faces. Some were experienced veterans. Many were young recruits who had enlisted after hearing stories about her. They call me Commander, she began, her voice amplified through speakers. They call me Ghost. They call me Deathbringer. The Vryn fear these names. She paused, making eye contact with random soldiers in the crowd. But I am none of those things. I'm a soldier like you. I've been afraid. I've made mistakes. I've lost people I loved. War didn't make me special. It just made me experienced. The Vryn are coming to Earth. They want to end humanity. They think we're weak because we value life, because we mourn our dead, because we feel fear. They're wrong. Her voice grew stronger. Our ability to feel pain and keep fighting, to lose everything and still protect others, to be afraid and still stand firm, that's not weakness. That's strength. That's what makes us human. In 2 weeks, we face the largest battle in human history. Some of us won't survive. That's the truth of war. But those who do survive will have protected billions of innocent people. They'll have given humanity a future. We will fight together. We will sacrifice together. And we will win together. Not because we're perfect warriors, but because we're human and we refuse to give up. The soldiers erupted in cheers, not because of fancy words or false promises, but because G1 had spoken to them as equals. As the briefing ended, Taemin approached with Hyunwoo. That was some speech, Taemin said. I meant every word. We know. That's why we'll follow you anywhere. Hyunwoo nodded. Remember when we mocked you on your first day? We were such idiots. You were scared, one said. Everyone's scared. The trick is not letting fear control you. Is that how you do it? Taemin asked. Stay calm in battle? No, I'm always terrified. I just don't show it. The days passed quickly. G1 trained new officers, refined tactical plans, and spent time with Squad 7. She was finally finding balance between who she had been and who she needed to be. The night before the Vryn fleet was expected to arrive, G1 stood on the observation deck. Earth was visible through the window, blue and beautiful and fragile. Min joined her. Tomorrow's the big day. Yes, are you ready? No, but I'll fight anyway. That's all anyone can ask. They stood in comfortable silence, watching their homeworld. Mana, Jawan said quietly. Thank you. For what? For being my friend. For not letting me disappear into the legend. For reminding me that I'm still human. Mana smiled. That's what friends do. The rest of Squad 7 arrived. Lieutenant Jae-Sung, Taemin, Hyunwoo, and a dozen others. They gathered around G1, not as soldiers around their commander, but as friends. Group photo? Taemin suggested, holding up his camera. In case? In case we don't all make it, Hyunwoo finished honestly. They crowded together in front of Earth's window. G1 stood in the center, finally smiling genuinely. Everyone say humanity. Taemin called, humanity. They shouted together. The photo captured them as they were. Not legends or heroes. Just soldiers, young and scared and determined. The next morning, alarms rang through every human ship. The Vryn Armada had arrived. 500 alien vessels filled space like a swarm of locusts. The largest fleet ever assembled. G-1 stood in the command center. wearing her uniform and the weight of responsibility. But this time she wasn't alone. Squad 7 was with her. Thousands of soldiers trusted her leadership. All ships, this is Commander G1, she spoke into the fleet-wide channel. Battle stations, hold your positions. Wait for my command. Through the window, she could see Earth. Somewhere down there, people were going about their lives. Unaware of the battle about to be fought for their survival, she thought about her family, about Sung-ho, about everyone she had lost. This is for you, she whispered then. Louder to her fleet. All ships, advance. Let's end this war.